All right. Hey, everyone. So I've been working on this project for roughly 1 month now. I started at about the 10th last month. So I thought I'd do a quick progress report on sort of where we're at and where we're going. I've written everything out in here. So this is sort of what we've done, and this is the plan here. I'm just going to move this off screen and read from it while we've got the game open so I can kind of point at things while we're going through. So the first thing is engine features. So we got real-time camera zooming. You can totally dynamically change all the size of objects, and their positions will be adjusted for the zoom scale. So if we're zoomed in twice as far, this object here, for example, would be twice as far away. Um, you have full manual control that's separate to your ship, for example. We could have our camera track this ship and follow it around, but that's not necessary. You can just look at things freely. Um, right, camera tracking, so you can lock on to any body, which we actually need a system for here. If I were to have a helm, right, so then we can track stuff, track body. Girls, stop fighting. I'm trying to make a video here. My cat's over there fighting. Um, yeah, we could track the ship or whatever. Right, okay, so that's sort of camera. Game speed. So we can fully change the game speed, we can increase time or slow down time. This has no impact on your controls. So if the game is running at like double speed, right, like 0.5, then if I were to pan left or pan right, you don't pan twice as fast. So like the actual user input is independent of the game speed. Hard GUI system. So we have fully interactive buttons. Like that's probably a bad button to example, but you can see we can hover, we can click, press. Each button can have unique actions applied to it. So this button could have a different action when you hover, or when you click, or when you press, or when you release. So there's like 5 different things that you could trigger, and each one could do a different thing for the button. Um, the button graphics are pretty much finished, so you can see you get like a hover effect and a press effect when you click on it. The framework is there for sound effects, so these could have like a little, when you hover over a button, it makes like a little tap noise or something. Um, and we could have a click sound effect, but I haven't actually set it up. So it's like the system works, it's just I haven't bothered to load in any sound effects yet. Um, Next on the list, we've got animated HUD. So this here, if we look at a scroll panel, is an example of what I mean by animated HUD. So I'm not talking about like things, items within the HUD being animated, but like HUD itself. So like panels and stuff could be animated. Instead of having this just pop up and pop off like that, I could have it so that it like slides down from top to bottom or fades in. That kind of HUD animation is all implemented. It it's just not really used anywhere other than these scroll bars right now. We have a main menu, so we can jump back to main. We have this loading screen all done. There's no actual settings you can change yet, but they'll be in here. And continue doesn't actually work, so you can't save the game right now. Yeah, so we've got main menu, escape menu, another thing you probably just saw. So you can tap escape and, change your settings or exit the game, whatever. Jukebox. I did that in a previous video. I suppose I'll just demo that again real quick. If we go here and we set our track, right now, oh, we need to import that stuff. It's funny, get a bug. Jukebox. What the heck? Why can't you find that? Change to jukebox. Oh, did I? Is this lowercase or something? Yeah. Let's make this uppercase. like so. Right, make this uppercase as well. Cool. Now we should have some music when we start the game. Alright, there you go, got some music. And the jukebox is already set up to have like layers of audio, so we could have two tracks, kind of one fading out as the next one's fading in, and we could also have like sound effects layered on top of the music. Right, next, game time. So up the top, back in here. Oh, let's just turn the music off. Comment that out. So up here you have basically a calendar, and this is totally integrated with the game time. So if we were to go to double time, yeah, you can see that days pass twice as fast now. So this multiplier here is basically a multiplier on the day length. So when it's at 0.5, which it is now, one day will be 0.5 its length, or, you know, it'll go twice as fast. Next, simplified sprite loading. So I have a system where we can load in entire sprite sheets right in here, and all it takes is a path. So basically you make your sprite sheet, you just tell it a path and the size of the sprite, and then they all are automatically loaded into usable sprites that can be called rather in any class. And these are all static instances. So if you see two sprites that are the same, it's just the same data being shared or like pointed to from two different classes. So you never have double ups of image data, basically, which saves a huge amount of memory, which is good. Okay, so that's everything for sort of engine features. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but that's kind of the main things. Pressing on, we've got universe. So we have a functional real-time orbital mechanics, which controls the position of bodies in the star system. So you can see that here. It's more noticeable if we accelerate time. And you have like systems within systems, pretty much. So like Mars can have its own orbital systems. If we like find Saturn or Neptune, they've got quite large moon systems. There you go, here's Saturn, right? So it's got a whole bunch of moons which orbit this, but then this has its own orbit around here, and each moon could have sub-moons on it. I haven't really set up any systems to generate sub-moons of moons yet, but there's no reason you couldn't have, like, you know, this tiny moon has even tinier moons, and then those moons have moons. So you could go really deep into, like, the scale of the universe. So we have sectors with fully randomly generated stars. I'll quickly just bring up the navigation system here. Right, navigation. So what we're looking at are all the stars within this sector. And there's currently no way to jump to other sectors, but eventually there will be like a little sector button here or something, and you'll be able to move to different sectors of space, basically, and you'll have a whole new sector to explore with new stars, and each star, like you've seen, has its own unique systems. Now, if we had a helm, which we'll quickly just drop in, right, and we actually need a crewman. We'll just buy Dilbert. Come on, Dilbert. Oh, we need quarters as well to actually give this guy some commands. Dilbert, right, get to work on this helm. So while he's heading there, just have another read here. So we've also got randomly generated naming system with like pseudo Latin. So I made this I took all the base or the root words from Latin and then kind of ran them through like a randomizer sort of thing. So it kind of compiles different root words together into one. So if I were to go to another system here, like let's randomly jump to here. It's actually probably the worst one I could have picked. Let's pick an orange dwarf or something, because they generally have quite a lot of planets around them. Are we just getting really unlucky? Okay, there's one planet in this system. What about here? There we go, it's a little bit more populated system. Some stuff going on. Now, if we had a science department, where are we? Engineering. Oh, I don't have an engineering system, so I can't actually do that. Anyway, if we had science, we can open up this tab, and then you can do a survey, like of this star or whatever you're orbiting, and this information here will be revealed, and then we could see the fake Latin names. I'm not going to do all that now, but you take my word for it, it all works. Right, next we've got pseudo name. So we did that. That's kind of universe features done. Ship features. So this is a lot of the stuff we've just been using. So you got this block system here. I'm just going to reboot the game. Just start again so we can look at this engineering system. Okay, so clearly reboot is a little bit bugged. We'll just rebuild the whole program then. All right, so in engineering here, you can fully customize your ship the way you want it to. You're going to be able to lay out all these blocks, and then, I don't know, if you want helm here, you can put a helm there. If you want two, you can have two helms, and then if one fails, you've got a backup one. Probably a smart thing to do. You definitely want to have multiple engineering sections, which enables this. The only reason we can access this is because we're at the spawn point around Earth. As soon as you leave, if you don't have engineering, you're not able to use this system. So it's pretty good idea to build a few engineering stations. Right, so this all has power and stuff, which is all done. So like if I were to make a system here, whatever, like a galley, you can see that that's not illuminated. And then it's still not illuminated until it has a direct connection. Like if I went to here, for example, now power can move through these system blocks. So basically how that works is block types will either be a conductor or not a conductor. And obviously system blocks are conductors, and then I just have to add another type for conduits. They'll just basically be a non-armored block that allows electricity to pass through it. So you don't have to build systems everywhere if you don't want to. Right, autopilot, which was that helm thing we did before. Oh, we've depowered. Right, so power, we've got -3 power, and then our stored power must have drained down to less than 0. So now we have no reserve power. If I were to add another power station, you can see that we now are regaining that power. Yeah, autopilot. So I could target any of these planets and press make way if I had a crewman, which we may as well just do quickly. Right, you. Oh, we need quarters as well. Right, get to work, Paris. So crew can be assigned a job, like here, and you can assign them tasks other than a job. So he can have a task here, and then if I wanted him to go and do something over here, he can do that. And then as soon as he's done his list of jobs, he'll just head back to his assigned station. So you could see if I make multiple clicks here, he'll do all the queued paths that I set for him before going back. And if I give him a different job, then he's now like, will return to that new assigned job. So that's prioritization of tasks. Crew jobs have real purposes. So if we were to try and go somewhere, right, the helm must be manned. So you have to actually have crew assigned to different stations. So if we put him on the helm, now we can make way. And you'll see that our ship's headed off from here, and it's finding a path to Jupiter, which is displayed down here. So we're heading to Jupiter. That'll probably take a while, because Jupiter's pretty far out planet. Right, next. So power system we already talked about. All stuff in this grid needs to be connected at some point to the main reactor. So if, for example, I haven't actually tested this, so this is probably a good thing to test. If I made some power here and then connected a system to it, right, that doesn't actually power it. It has to be tied into the main reactor. And the reason that is because these are basically slave reactors. So they will add their production capacity to this main reactor. but they can't work independently without it. So it's sort of like supplementary or auxiliary. No, not even auxiliary. It's like supplementary power. If it was auxiliary, then it would work, I think. Anyway, so we may add auxiliary power later where you can have different powered systems that are independent. So this could depower, and you could have other systems over here that still maintain power. It's not really necessary to have that. It's just, I don't know, could be a cool feature to have. Right, next. What else we got? Autopilot we talked about. So crew can board your ship, they can disembark. So that's just like if I were to sell him to a station. We're not actually at a station, so he can't get off, but if we were at one, he could. Warp system, so if we had some navigation... Oh, you already saw that before, right? We jumped to another star, so you can warp to other systems. Right now, you don't need a warp drive, and it doesn't have to be powered or anything, but eventually that will just be another block, right? You'll have in here, you'll have to have a warp drive with power and probably crew on there, and then you can jump to other systems. So that's warp. Cargo system is implemented, so you can buy stuff, you can buy ammo, and it goes in here. At the moment, it's not fully working, so there's no limit on how much you can store, and you can see in our ship design, right, we have no cargo, and we're still, well, we're not actually at a station, so I can't buy anything. But if we were, we would be able to store that ammo without cargo. So all I need to do is implement like just one variable for your ship, and then every time you add cargo, this will maybe, I don't know, maybe it adds 10 space per cargo, and then you could build up a big cargo section and, you know, store all your ammunition or whatever in there. So technology is a new thing I just set up the other day. So these are the base techs that you start with, and the way this kind of works is you'll build your base thing in here, right? So if we went and added a weapon, you can't actually set the weapon type right now, but if we were to set this, it would either be a laser or a missile or a torpedo, so one of the base types, and then to improve it, you would upgrade this block by installing parts on it. So you would invest parts into here, and then you could assign a crewman. So we could get this guy in Paris or whatever to come and work here, and if there were invested parts, he would install those parts before heading back to his assigned job. So tech, we just talked about. Navigation, we've talked about. Quarters, we've talked about. Interactable space stations, we've talked about. And trading, we have talked about as well. I may as well just quickly reboot so we can just show that that actually does work. So that's pretty well a rundown of everything I've done over the past 30 days. I would like to have done a bit more, but like I said in one of my previous videos, I kind of had food poisoning there for a few days, and that sort of stuffed some stuff up. Kind of got a little bit messy, but whatever, these things happen. So if we were to look here, right, so I could buy some scrap bullets, and you can see they're getting added in here. This says the price. So if I, what's an expensive item? Let's buy a bunch of Mark V missiles, right? And then, okay, they've run out of missiles to sell. We'll buy these ones then. Right, now I've run out of money, so I could sell some blocks to the station. Now the station's run out of money, so you have to make sure if you're buying something that you have enough money, and if you want to sell something, the station needs to have enough money to buy that thing from you as well. So you can't just like go to one station and then just sell like an infinite amount of stuff. You have to actually navigate around, and maybe you find a system with a very prosperous station in it that has a lot of money, and you can go there and do a bunch of selling, or, you know, it kind of encourages you to explore. Yeah, so that's that. Now I'm just going to bring up this list here. So this is pretty much everything that I would like to have done in the next 30 days. So I'm just going to read through it. Game tutorial. So at the main menu, right back here, I want to add another button for tutorial. And it will probably just be a click through with screenshots and maybe some text and stuff, and just to quickly explain to new players like how to build your first ship, kind of roughly, maybe a few clues, and get you sort of started, but I really want people to sort of figure things out for themselves without too many hints. Okay, next, what else do we have? Missions and event system. So in here, this little button is going to be our log, basically. So every time you discover, let's say you go to a new system and you've done a survey of a planet, right? And you discover an event. There's like a random event on that planet or a random mission that you find. That will be kept track of in here. So you'll have a list of like completed missions, active missions that you might want to return to later. And it will say like the date you discovered that thing or completed it, as well as the star system it's in. If you know, like if you don't know, it's going to come up with all question marks. So you kind of are encouraged to complete surveys so that you'll be able to find missions at a later date if you don't want to do them immediately. So next, that's the ship log, keep track of events and missions. NPC ships, friendly and hostile. So you need to be able to encounter and find other ships while exploring and interact with those ships. Later on here, I talk about diplomacy somewhere. The comms system. So we're going to set up a comms, which will be here. So other ships in the system, you'll be able to like have a diplomatic interface with them. And depending on how you interact with them, you know, there'll be real consequences to that. So if you're super hostile to other ships, maybe they will become aggressive and attack you, or if you're nice to them, maybe they're sympathetic and they'll give you some resources and technology. So ship combat obviously will need to be set up. So let's not close that. Right, if I'm here and maybe I've been kind of rude and offensive to another ship that's orbiting this planet over here, right? They decide that they're going to engage me. They could either move like to orbit Earth and then we have a close quarters kind of combat, or they might be able to board. If we're orbiting the same body, they might be able to send their crew onto my ship and start like having sort of crew fighting against each other in here. Why can't I bring that up? Okay, that's a bit weird. Anyway, whatever. So back to the combat, right? If they do decide to engage from this distance, the next thing is going to be setting up, like, let's say they fire a shot at you. If your ship is pointing this way and a missile comes in from here, it should hit, like, if that's the right side of your ship, it'll hit the right side of your grid. So any blocks that you have built on the right will be taking impact from those shots. And then as you like turn or you pull away to the left, you know, it'll start hitting a different side of your ship. So it's going to be kind of simulated to at least have the angles of the projectile so that, like I'm saying, the your relative position to other ships will affect where that projectile lands on your ship. It's probably the best way to explain that. So ship combat, crew combat, we kind of touched on there. Crew level system. So this is going to be a big thing to incentivize players to care for their crew and to kind of keep them for a long time. So crew will age, they'll gain experience and have specialties. So you might have a crew that's an engineer or a security guard, or he might be your tactical officer or something. And so they'll gain XP specific to the task they're doing. And the more XP they gain, the more qualified they will become at that, or more proficient they will become at that task. So if you have a high-level engineer who's got a lot of engineering experience, he should do jobs faster than a low-level engineer, right? Or someone who's not an engineer at all. If you send two crew to repair, you know, the same system at two different places, like they're both repairing, I don't know, engineering, for example, and one of them's high level and one of them's low level, that high level guy is going to get the job done a lot faster. So you really want to invest in, you know, taking care of your crew. Maybe you have like a good mix of like engineers and security officers, whatever you decide, however you want to run the ship. Away missions is going to be something. So you should be able to send your crew down to planet surfaces and get some kind of reward. So, or it could be a consequence, right? You might engage some hostile aliens on the surface of a planet and you lose a crewman. but it's going to be worth kind of running that risk because you might find some new technology or new parts that you can then install to upgrade your ship further. So Bezier curves, this is kind of a under the hood improvement I'd like to make. So if you notice in our game right now, I'll just reboot so that because by default when you start the game you're already tracking a planet. So right now you can see how this planet has kind of a wobble. It's a little bit jittery, and that's just due to a rounding error. I'm pretty sure it's the type of math that I'm using to calculate the orbital path is just based on like, it's like the sine tan of the angle relative to this pretty much. So it's like elliptical mathematics, which is not really great. I'll give you kind of a quick example of why I think this is happening. I'll just open up Paint here, right? And we zoom in. If I draw a circle, no, I don't want to update. And we zoom in, right? See how this is stuttered? So I'm pretty sure this is what's going on with our path, is that it gets to here and then it does like a step rather than having a smooth path. So this is where if we had Bezier curves, which are kind of like, it's more like it's kind of hard to explain, but if we had Bezier curves, I don't think this will be a problem with our orbital paths. I think that will fix this. So that would be a cool thing to set up. So next, comms, we've already talked about. I could keep that open. Block damage. So right now blocks have integrity, but there's no way for them to take damage. So that's kind of going to be all set up when we do this combat thing. We'll work on how blocks are actually going to be affected by an impact. And there's a couple of different types of damage. So we'll have fire, explosive damage, and then just general integrity damage. So crew will need to put out fires and repair blocks that are damaged. Any crew can repair damage, but engineers, like we were talking about before, will be superior at these tasks. So oxygen and pressurized blocks. Right now, there's no oxygen at all, sort of in our ship. It's not even like a consideration that our crew thinks about. So we want to have a way of determining whether a room can be pressurized, like seeing if it has, I don't know, armor or hull all the way around, and if that hull has full integrity. And then you'll have this system here, which will be like an environmental system. And if you have that installed, you'll be able to replenish the oxygen pressure on your ship. And obviously, it kind of goes hand in hand with our damage. So if a block has like 0 integrity or maybe 25% integrity or something, it starts to leak that oxygen pressure. And eventually those rooms might become depleted, and then it will be dangerous for your crew to enter there. So a medical system, this kind of comes back to our crew. So setting them up so they can have health and damage, and then you'll need medical staff. So you'll have to have like a med bay, and you can train up a doctor, and he can you can send him around your ship and heal up any damaged crew that you have. Galley. So I want to have food on your ship, so crew will need to stay well fed to be healthy. Crew will automatically visit the galley when hungry to restore their food. Crew can be assigned tasks that override the priority of eating. So for example, if you have a fire and your crew's like getting a snack, you should still be able to click on him and send him to put out that fire. The only exception will be if you're constantly like taking your crew out of the galley when they're trying to eat. Eventually their food will get to like a point where they're starving, and when they're that low on food, they will no longer listen to your orders, right? They'll go and get some food, and then once they're at like an acceptable level and they're not going to starve to death, they will get on with the jobs that you've issued them. And then a counseling system. So I want to have it that tasks like putting out fire, away missions, or being in a combat scenario will cause the crew to build up stress. And then eventually, if they become too stressed, they might, what did I write? They will perform their duties less effectively, or if they're really stressed out, they might just not listen to you at all. They kind of go rogue. And you tell your guy, do this job, and he's like, nah, whatever, I'm too stressed to do that job. So that'll be kind of cool. And then we'll have a counseling system. So if you don't have a counselor on board, you'll have no way of relieving the stress of your crew. So having a counselor will be something pretty vital to the game or your success in the game. So there's quite a bit here. Some of this stuff will probably take a few days, and some stuff might take a week. Some of this stuff like crew combat, which sounds like it might be hard, I think will actually be easy. And the crew leveling system should be pretty quick. I might be able to knock that out in a day. But often the way these things go is the things that you think are going to be simple take a long time, and sometimes the things that you think are going to take a long time end up being pretty simple. So anyway, kind of a lot there to think about. But yeah, that's pretty much the state of the game, and a little bit of a workflow plan so you guys can kind of know what to expect up in the next month. And if we manage to get all this done in the next month, I think we're pretty much at like alpha, right? When we get to here, we might look at doing like a public release on GitHub or something where people can download it and just start having a go, play some of the game, and we'll get some feedback. You guys can tell me what you like, what you don't like, what's fun, what's not fun, and yeah, we'll try and make this a really fun little game to play. So that's all for today, guys. Just sort of an update on, yeah, the state of the game. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll have some more content soon. All right. Bye, guys.